really tough times. And I thought, yeah, maybe burnout. So he got onto medication, antidepressants, and prior to that, he had been struggling to sleep for years. And so the doctors gave him different concoctions for sleeping, and that didn't work. The antidepressants weren't working. And from what I've read and understood, is that after 6 weeks of taking antidepressants, the person sort of starts to balance out, and that wasn't happening with him. So month after month, I was struggling in my spirit because he was literally getting worse right in front of our eyes. The kids and I could see something was very wrong, but just didn't know what it is, and the doctors didn't know what it is. So fast forward in May, one day he just collapsed in our living room, and one of our sons found him, picked him up, and then he just sort of came to. The very next day he collapsed. I was in the kitchen, he just spilled over, and I thought, this is very strange. So I thought he was seeing a counselor at that time online. So I phoned the counselor and I said to her, he's collapsed twice in 2 days. And she said to me, Trudy, the person who's depressed shouldn't just collapse from out of the blue. You need to see a neurologist. So a few days after that, we went to London Clinic, and it was a fateful day. Because that day, the doctor, as we were explaining everything that had happened, he said to me, I have a theory and I don't think your husband is depressed. So in my mind, the worst kind of thing didn't even occur to me. I just thought, well, I don't know what theory he's got. So he said to us, go to an MRI, I'll call you back if it's very serious. If it's not, we can see. It was a Saturday. So if it's not serious, I'll see you on Monday. A few hours later, he phoned us and he said, I'd like you to come to my house. He'd already left the hospital. And he said, it's very serious. If you can find someone to drive you, please ask someone to drive you. And I said, no, nobody can drive me. I can come by myself. So we get to his house. He lives in Masaki somewhere. I can't actually, some of it is very hazy. That particular day is very hazy. We get to his house and he said, I've got very bad news for you. Your husband has got a brain tumor, but not just an ordinary brain tumor. So I find this when I explain to people the kind of tumor he has, people always say to me, oh, I know so-and-so's got who had a brain tumor, they operated and bounced right back. I know this person, and I often actually hold myself back because his type of tumor is not in the same realm as normal brain tumors. In fact, it's a rare type of cancer. It's called glioblastoma multiforme. It's a very aggressive cancer, and once you operate, it starts to grow again. So at that point, when we told this, I thought, you must be kidding me. Is this my life? The first thing I literally said to him, you're joking, are you not? And then he said, no, I'm not. I'm very serious. And it's very big. It needs to be operated. It was a Saturday, he said by Monday, you need to have made a decision to operate. So you can imagine from just dealing with depression, which we were grappling with, and then suddenly you're being told you've got a life-threatening disease, and the stats on it, if you look it up, it's just awful. And his was already in stage 4 of cancer. Anyway, to cut the story short, he had surgery, they took out 70% of the tumor, and then he had radiotherapy and chemotherapy. Then started chemo again, and just yesterday he's finished 1 year of chemo. So in fact he's done 14 months of chemotherapy. And God has been so gracious to him, so wonderfully gracious to him, because he's fighting this cancer with everything he's got. We have seen him, I have seen him, I live with him, and I've seen how much he's fighting. I've seen God working in him, graciously working in him. God has been using his fight to inspire me, because I look at him and I think, I have this cancer, honestly, I'll just hide away somewhere until something bad happens to me. But he's fighting. He's taking his medicines, he tries to eat well. His type of cancer actually, even if he eats the very best he can, it's not affected by what he eats. Basically what he needs is a miracle of God. And we have seen the miracle of God, because they say that this type of cancer, after surgery, they give you 8 to 12 months of life. And if you live beyond that, you can live up to 5 years. So his doctors have said to him, at this very moment, he's above the curve, beyond the curve, because they would have expected by now something to have happened. So we thank God every day. There's some of you who already know the story because you're on our mailing list, and some of you have been praying for us. Thank you for your prayers. I can honestly say I'm standing here because of the prayers of the saints. Sometimes I cannot pray for myself. It's just overwhelming. But I know that someone somewhere is praying. And so, after all of this had happened, he had surgery, he started the chemo, I thought, surely God is going to suddenly heal him. And then we'll have his testimony in the bag, and we'll look back and say, wow, that was tough, but we made it. And I'm sad to say, here we are, 18 months later, and the cancer is still there. So at the moment it's stagnant. For the last 6 months, it actually hasn't grown, which is an absolute miracle. Because as soon as he finished his initial radiation, the tumor started to grow again. But at the moment it's stagnant, so that's a miracle in itself. So that's the reason why I entitled my message, The Mystery of Suffering. Because I had my own ideas of how I was going to suffer. I had thought, okay, we can take this cancer, God, and then I realized, oh, it's not going to be just 6 weeks or 3 months. It's going to be a long journey. And I wasn't really prepared for the long journey, to be honest. I wasn't prepared for a short one, and then we move on with life. And I get my husband right back. So my husband, for those who know him, is completely different from the way he was in 2019 and before that. He's a different person. So even that, continue with that we're living with a different dad in the home, I'm living with a different husband, people in God's tribe with a different pastor. It's tough. It's very tough. But God has called us to persevere in this journey. And I'm being called, personally, I'm being called to persevere. So in this fire that we find ourselves, my family, our church, and our friends, for my children, we feel all sorts of emotions on a daily basis. Sometimes we feel despair, we feel pain, numbness, sorrow, heartache, loss. On the same day, we feel joy, happiness, triumph, courage, grace, bravery, a sense of experiencing miracles. Imagine